The New York Giants have had a questionable offseason to say the least. One of the more controversial decisions was when they traded away Odell Beckham Jr., and I think they've gotten a lot more heat now that they've signed Golden Tate, as a lot of people are confused as to why get rid of Odell Beckham Jr. and then sign Golden Tate. If your whole idea is to rebuild, why are you going out and signing a solid receiver? But in my opinion, I totally understand why a team like the Giants would want to sign a guy like Golden Tate. I mean, it clearly appears that they're going to be looking to draft a rookie this next season, and in my opinion, it makes total sense to have a valuable receiver on the team who can definitely help him out. You don't want to draft a rookie and have him have no one to throw to and just completely kill his confidence. You'd like to have guys who he can throw to, so why not go out and sign a guy like Golden Tate who can definitely be a valuable asset in terms of helping a quarterback grow and not killing a quarterback's confidence. And I know people are going to say, well, he's 30 years old. Can he even play anymore? And in my opinion, yes, he absolutely can. Here's one way Detroit love to get Golden Tate into the play. As you see on a play like this, it's going to be a cover 3 zone. And what the Lions are going to do is have a receiver run that route right there. And then they're going to have Golden Tate run a pretty similar route, but just underneath that route on the bottom half of the screen. Basically, the way this play is going to work is it's going to get that 49er defensive back to run up to cover that first lion, and then Golden Tate can simply cut underneath him and should in theory get wide open. And as you see, this works out perfectly and Golden Tate is able to get wide open and make a catch. But that's only part of what I wanted to show you. Yes, Golden Tate can be a very valuable receiver in that situation, although that's more of a scheme play than it is just a great skill play by Tate. Here's what I really wanted to talk about. They call him the Yak King for yards after the catch, and the reason for that is because he's one of the best players at getting yards after the catch in the league. Like, take a look at how he does it here. Right now, there's going to be 3 49ers in the area, and so what you expect most players to do is simply just run straight forward, pick up another 5-10 yards, get tackled, or run out of bounds, and that will be the end of the play. But Golden Tate looks over and realizes if he can just get around those 49ers, he could have a ton of open space on the top half of the screen. And he says, hey, why not risk 10 yards to try to pick up 30? And that's going to be exactly what ends up happening, as he does end up getting it all the way to the 10-yard line. He has a great ability to pick up yards after the catch, and I think that could really help a rookie quarterback, as it could turn 20-yard gains into 40-yard gains, and I think that's huge for a rookie. So I do think Golden Tate could help out a rookie quarterback. And it's not just yards after the catch either. I mean, take this play for example. Once again, it's a cover 3 zone, and those are the routes that the Lions are going to be running at the bottom half of the screen. And if we take a look at the end of Golden Tate's route, he could not be getting open, even though he is running into his zone in coverage, because there is a cut right there. This could allow for him to still end up getting some separation, especially when he's going up against a linebacker. As you see, as of right now, it's tough to tell if he's going to have separation or not. But if you take a look, Stafford is still getting ready to throw it to him because he trusts Golden Tate so much. Tate is able to create a separation once he cuts, Stafford hits him, and they're able to pick up a first down. He's not the fastest guy, he's not the tallest guy, and he's not the strongest guy, but he is a great route runner, and that's really crucial in the NFL. And while he is great at picking up those yards after the catch plays, he's also a great possession receiver. Like, take this one for example. First things first, you're going to see him send Golden Tate in motion, which is going to let the Lions know that it is going to be man coverage. And now it's going to be pretty simple. Tate is running a pretty standard out route to the bottom half of the screen, and there is a lion in charge of guarding him, but since he would be in that situation, this now means that Golden Tate would have a pretty decent angle to try to get open, and Stafford would have a decent angle to try to throw it to him. So the reality is, a guy like Golden Tate can kind of be a crutch, which on one hand you might say, well, you don't want your rookie quarterback to have a crutch, but I personally disagree. I think you want rookie quarterbacks to always have something to fall back on. I mean, really, I think you want all quarterbacks in general to always have a guy you can fall back on, but especially rookies as you're trying to learn the NFL, the talent level is so much different from the NFL as it is from college, so it can be very difficult for these young quarterbacks to be successful moving forward. So having a guy who can create that much separation on an out route, I think can help development. This play will be another perfect example of him doing just that. As you see, once again, it seems pretty clear it's man coverage, as there are 4 defensive backs playing press coverage against the 4 receivers who are on the line. And so in a situation like this, having Golden Tate in a one-on-one matchup is a pretty good situation, and once again, he is in an out route, which is clearly something he can be very successful at. But what's really fascinating to me is look at Matt Stafford. He never even thinks about throwing it to anybody else. He just has full trust in Golden Tate. And this isn't because Matt Stafford isn't good at reading defenses, he obviously is, it's just that he knows Golden Tate can get open consistently. I'm kind of talking about Tate in a way that makes it seem like he would only be good to help a rookie quarterback, but the reality is he's just a good receiver and he can help any quarterback. If the Giants decide to use Eli Manning and try to be competitive next year, well, he would help them be competitive next year. While he is great at creating that separation, that doesn't mean that he needs separation. He can be great in lots of different ways. Like on a play like this, once again, it's a cover 3 zone, and those are the 2 routes on the top half of the screen that the Lions will be running. It's basically the exact same play I showed you earlier. So once again, the route you're going to want to take a look at is the end of Golden Tate's route right there. But one thing worth noting here is take a look at what the Cowboys going to do here. He's actually going to run in and create contact, which is going to slow Golden Tate down. This is a very smart play, as Tate isn't in great position to be making a catch. However, what he's going to do is simply just adjust his route. Instead of trying to run to the outside towards the sideline of the corner, he's simply going to cut back towards the inside of the corner. Really, it's those types of zone busters that really make Golden Tate so valuable. A large part of that is because he is so quick, and because he can run routes so well, that he can kind of understand where exactly he has to be, and how open he can get in certain plays. Like on this play, for example, it's going to be a cover 3 zone. First time I've shown one of those today, and the Lions are once again going to do a very similar thing. They have a receiver running out towards the middle of the zone, which is then going to draw the safety who's in charge of guarding that top left-hand corner of the screen over to guard him. And also, of course, the safety in the middle of the screen will just naturally guard him since he's running into his zone. This now means that Tate could just run the same route he has run the past few times and could potentially get open. But now if you take a look, this is very different than the last time where he cut inside the defensive back. What he's doing instead this time is cutting much farther behind the defensive back. It's these little subtle things that mean so much for receivers, because if he cut in front of that defensive back, he could easily try to create contact and slow Golden Tate down. But since he didn't do that, Golden Tate is now very aware that he can run just past him and could be wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. He is able to get the touchdown, and really these types of plays make a quarterback's job so much easier. Well, yes, I'm sure it helped Matt Stafford more when he had Calvin Johnson and he could always just throw it up to him in triple coverage and Calvin Johnson would find a way to catch it. But these types of players really help as well. Golden Tate's not quite as flashy as Julio Jones, and he's not as good of a player as Julio Jones, obviously, but he can still be very effective, especially when a young quarterback is throwing to him. He can also show up into big games, and I'm sure some people will be saying the Giants aren't going to be playing in a big game in several years, but things happen fast in the NFL. I mean, just a couple of years ago, the Browns were 0-16, and now they're looking like a legitimate Super Bowl threat for some people. But anyways, let's move on to this play, and I'm sure it's a play that you guys all remember, as it was in the playoff game against the Bears. There's only a minute left, and it was 4th down and 2 with the Eagles trailing by 5. So basically, if the Eagles don't get a touchdown here, the game's over and they lose. It's going to be man coverage, and that's where Golden Tate is on the screen, so it's a one-on-one matchup. This is all about if Tate can win his one-on-one matchup. That's the route that he's going to be running, which is a pretty decent route to beat man coverage. However, now if you take a look at this still image right here, this is pretty tight coverage. Golden Tate doesn't have a lot of room to try to make a catch here. Nick Foles is going to make a great throw. However, Tate also makes a great catch and just gets the ball past the goal line for a go-ahead touchdown. This ended up being the game-winning touchdown, shout out Matt Parkey, and I really think it goes to show how valuable of an asset Golden Tate can really be. And not just that, but I actually think that now that the Giants have Golden Tate, they actually have a pretty solid receiving core. Yes, they probably could use a true number 1 receiver now that Beckham is gone, but Golden Tate has always kind of towed that line of either being one of the worst number 1 receivers in the league or one of the best number 2 receivers in the league. So he's kind of on that true number 1 receiver type length. He's maybe just one step below it. Really, you have guys like Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, and now Golden Tate, and that's a pretty solid receiving core. Not to mention Saquon Barkley out of the backfield, so there's a lot of weapons for a Giants quarterback to try to throw to. And having multiple guys who can get open really helps a lot. Like, take this play for example. It's going to be a cover 2 man, and those are the routes that the Giants will be running on the top half of the screen. Typically, you would expect the slant route to be the route that's most open against man coverage, but what the Jacksonville defender is actually going to do is run in and play press coverage, so now really where the Giants should look at should be to Saquon Barkley, who's over at the top half of the screen now. So because Barkley appears to be much more open than Ingram on this play, what's going to happen is that the safety is now going to be looking towards Barkley to make sure that he doesn't allow him to get open. So basically what this means is the safety is going to run over to whoever's getting covered the worst, meaning that Manning has no choice but to throw it to whoever's getting covered the best. So as of right now, Ingram has created basically no separation, but despite that, he's still able to leap up and make a great catch. The reason I'm showing this play is basically just to display how having a lot of receivers who can catch can sometimes be more valuable than having one great receiver who can make a ton of catches. Granted, I'm not going to say that the Giants should have traded away Beckham or that the Giants are a better team now that they have Golden Tate instead of Beckham. I'm just explaining how Golden Tate can still be a valuable asset to this offense. Although it should be said that this Giants offense certainly has its flaws. Like, take this play for example. It's going to basically be a pretty standard screen pass. A wide receiver is going to fake as though he's going to the bottom half of the screen and then cut back to the top half of the screen. Then they're going to send a Giant out to block the player who's initially in charge of guarding that receiver, and they're also going to send 2 offensive linemen out to block the middle linebacker. So now if you take a look, the middle linebacker shouldn't be in great position to make a tackle since there are 2 offensive linemen who are both in that area. However, they fail to communicate here, and that's huge. Really what should have happened here is they should have double teamed him, or one of them should have said, you get him, I'll get the next guy. But instead, some sort of miscommunication happened. Neither one of them ends up blocking that linebacker, and he basically just goes in between them, and the middle linebacker is able to go in between them and get a tackle for not much yards at all. This was a great situation for the Giants, actually. They just failed to execute. Quite frankly, I don't care if that's Antonio Brown right there. The reality is, you need 11 solid players to make an offense work.